Good morning, everybody. This is the Franklin County Fiscal Court Park Committee meeting for October the 11th, 2021. Today's meeting is to discuss the feasibility plan. We do not have Hitchcock on. This is a discussion of local entities, including Keith Gallagher from the YMCA, Robin Antonucci from Tourism, Terry Bradshaw from Economic Development, which are all integral pieces to this plan that we're looking at. Ultimately, we will be coming up with priority settings and get this back with the Hitchcock Group. And then a few weeks later from now, we will be receiving the plan, and that will be, the plan will be presented to the public as well. So this is a preliminary process in developing the draft plan as part of the draft plan, and which will ultimately lead to a final plan. So everybody's input is important, and those that Mr. Gallagher, you and Robin and Terry, if you'll just raise your hands when you want to, if you're not called upon, if you want to say something and chime in, please do. That's how we work it with these types of committees. All right, so welcome, and let's begin. We have in front of us a document that says Lakeview Park Master Plan Park Program Confirmation. And this is from the Hitchcock Group, and they like for us to look at what has been presented as part of the master plan. Now, I know some of you have not been able to see that. Do they have some of them have that?
Yes.
Okay.
They should have that.
Okay, so that is out there. So that is the document we will be referring to. And this is what our ask is to be for the day. The core program elements have been determined through gathering community input and aligning the feedback with the regional and local needs assessment. Please put an X by the core program elements that are confirmed by the park committee to be included in the master plan. More details can be found about each of these amenities in the attached program report. If any of the program elements are deemed to be moved into a different tier priority, and that tier priority is defined as primary, secondary, or tertiary, please mark a 1, 2, or 3 within that element. Please note any comments in the space provided, or feel free to add an attachment with the notes discussion topics. What my thought is with the committee is ultimately we will send one document based on from the committee's input, based from the staff's input, put together as in one document. So it'll be a consensus or it'll be a vote, whichever way it goes. We'll send one document to the Hitchcock Group from all the discussion that we have. So this meeting is now, I think we're ready to go, and I'm going to start with Robert. Is Robert on? Yes, I see he's on. Robert, I'd like for you to present your findings and talk about yours. Then we'll go to Charlie's, and then we'll go to Ann's. And at any time, Robin, Terry, or Keith, if you have any questions, just show me by raise hands, and we'll go from there. Charlie.
Thanks, Judge. Did you say that everybody had this document, even staff additional staff that's been invited, like Keith and Robin, Terry? Do they have this document, or?
I'll ask Tamara that.
They should have. Pam was going to email that out to them last week.
Yeah, they've got it.
Okay, all right. Just making sure they were able to follow along.
Mr. Gallagher, I saw you shake your head no. Did you not receive it?
I don't believe I have it.
Okay, I apologize. I will have Pam send it to you.
We're going to send it to you right now.
Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Thanks.
All right. Okay. Robert, you're first.
All right. So under the primary core elements, I marked 2 items under that list, 2 out of 4. The first one was overall improved circulation. And then the second one was increased size of the playground. Judge, you want me to take questions on any of this?
Well, or give it a statement, whatever you want, or just move on, however you want to do it, Robert.
Well, I think the golf course is in wonderful shape. My only wish there is if there was a water feature there in front of number 6, but Charlie knows that. It's pretty fun when the water pools down there. But anyway, I think the golf course is in great shape. I don't see a need for any improvement there. And then as it relates to the field house, I just know that would be a very expensive project, and so I didn't check that. Under secondary core elements, I selected outdoor amphitheater, as well as pavilion improvements and additional shelters. Charlie made a statement at our last meeting that the horse shows and the horse arena are pretty much a gone thing anymore nowadays. And I think that we could create that into the amphitheater area and not displace any of the other existing park features. And then, of course, pavilion improvements and additional shelters, I think it's a fabulous idea. I think the more we put out there, the more people will come. On the tertiary and additional elements, I did not mark anything on that. If anything, I would support additional outdoor sports fields. I believe that would provide the opportunity if we did want to host tournaments. So actually, I'll go ahead and put my X on that one right now. And then lastly, under existing conditions to remain, I checked every one of them except the horse arena for the reasons I stated earlier relating to the amphitheater. I think the amphitheater would be a fabulous addition. I think it would be great to have music there. You could have, field classrooms for the schools, all kinds of great things. And I think it could be constructed in a way that would be minimal maintenance for the park staff. And, there have been times when there have been, picnic and music at that horse arena and people sat in the tiered area, and then there were picnic tables down on the track. And, I attended one of those and I thought that was fabulous. And I'd like to see that again. So that's my list, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, so I'll open the floor up for questions for Robert. Anybody has any? Squire Tracy, I'm sorry.
Thanks, Judge. Robert, quick question. In regards to the existing conditions, you made reference that you'd like to see them remain, except for the horse arena. In regards to remain, is that saying that you think those do not need to be improved, or you think they need to be improved and remain?
To remain.
Okay.
The only thing that on here that we could, there's a couple things on here that could potentially be improved. That being the walking trails. I think we could add some features, maybe some shade trees, maybe some more benches. I think that would be wonderful. And then also that motorsports arena. I know Squire Moore talks about how much people like that track, and I would like to see us, and I've talked to Squire Moore about it, if we could tier the hillside there so that people attending would have the opportunity to look down onto the track, because there have been complaints that the barrier wall we constructed keeps people from seeing all the action. So those are things that I think could be improved. But otherwise, I really would encourage the committee to make sure that all those things I checked on my list continue to be a feature of the park.
And then another question in regards to primary core elements. Charlie has beat a drum. I don't know for how many years, but I know he has beat a drum in regards to irrigation at the golf course. Is that not something that you could see would be beneficial along with signage?
Well, there is an existing irrigation system, and then several years ago, we bid out and had a contractor come in and make some repairs and then put in
Okay.
some monitoring and things. So, that's a continuing maintenance item. So,
Okay. And then my last question, Robert, is did you get a chance to fill out a survey?
no, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, when you ask that question, you mean when they were here in June to do that
Between the-
survey?
Yeah, between the public engagement and all the online ones. Yeah.
All right. Any other questions? Keith and Terry and Robin, these are also times for you. If you all have questions too, please hold your hand up. We'll get you. Okay, Robin.
I just had a question on the tertiary additional item there on the second page. It talks about land will be required, and I've not been involved in this throughout the process, but I just wondered if there was discussions about if land is to be acquired, how that would be addressed and where that might be and that sort of thing.
We really haven't gotten into that yet, and that will probably be the discussion when we get to that in a few minutes. Robin, unless one of the squires wants to answer that question, I'll be happy to let them answer that.
Okay, thank you.
Tracy or Squire Tracy, you want to answer that?
I kind of looked at that as in order to do some of those things that were listed, it would take additional property. I think that's what you and the firm, and I thought that's the way we all took it when they touched on that. If I'm wrong, please let me know.
No, I think if you want to go that route, it could. It doesn't necessarily mean, but it could mean that additional land, and especially when it came to overnight accommodations. I think that has always been a discussion by the committee or from the Hitchcock group to the committee that you may not have enough land to, there has been a discussion, somewhat of a hope that hotels would be put out in that area. And I do know that Hitchcock Group has said you probably don't have enough land for hotels to be added on the immediate grounds. Would you agree with that statement, Squire Tracy or Squire Muller? Because I don't want to speak for you all.
That's kind of the way that I took it, Judge.
Squire Muller?
That when they presented, Judge, that's how I took it also. Yes. So Robin, I think, to your point, I mean, this is still early on in the process. So we don't know exactly what that looks like.
Yeah, I understand. I didn't know if there'd been anything sort of further down the road, but it sounds like it's very preliminary at this stage. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you all.
All right, are there any other questions for Robert and his scoring of the plan? Okay, Robert, thank you. And don't go away. Probably more things will come here in a minute. Charlie, if you would you go over yours with us?
Yes, thank you, Judge. When reading through this as a Parks and Recreation person, all these things in my world are pretty important. I would, starting with the primary core elements. I mean, it's almost, I want to check every box, but I just tried to really dig deep a little bit, and I picked golf course improvements, but that's for a couple of reasons. One is the 30-year-old irrigation system. that continues to give us maintenance fits, and we keep pouring money into that. And then we run into some T space areas that need to be expanded. You know, when we get busy, and golf has really taken off during the pandemic. You know, our biggest year of revenue was last year during the pandemic. That we brought in the most revenue we ever have, significantly. And the driving range got tons of use. You know, we've got Midway College and Kentucky State University back, along with all the high schools, some of the middle schools, and even some of the elementary schools with the private schools. So, I mean, and I know that's a condensed part of time, but it stays busy continuously. So T space there and an additional practice green for all these people that have shown up for the golf course is pretty important to me. And then increase the size and inclusivity of the playground area. I think would be really neat if we could have an area for you know, handicap accessibility for kids to come out and enjoy the park and the playground. And really redoing that area. The field house, I mean, I think the field house is a great idea. You can see what I wrote there. I think that because of the expense and because we don't know what the WISE plans are, the YMCA, excuse me, I just feel like we need a better handle on what the cost is going to be, not only to construct it, but what is it going to be year after year to operate? What are those operating costs? That's just a huge thing to take on. And I would love to see it happen. I really would. I think we need something like that here in Frankfort for the community, as well as people coming into town and coming to an archery tournament, you know, or a martial arts tournament or a volleyball tournament, all indoor type field house stuff that need big areas, along with basketball and you know, the more popular stuff, you know, coming into the community. I think that's a great idea, I think, but you know, are there state leaders that can get involved, you know, and we address, you know, memberships through state government, and, you know, even though some of those people may be working from home, they still may benefit from that type of membership. But, you know, I'm just throwing that out there. But city, county, and state leaders and the YMCA, I really think we need to come together and figure out, you know, hey, what is it going to be? Where's it going to go? You know, what is it going to cost? And then what's it going to cost in year 2, year 3, year 4 for operating costs? That's just huge to me. Do I need to stop there and take questions or go to the secondary?
Why don't you go on through it, and then I know you've opened the door for Keith Gallagher, so we'll bring him in after you've gone through your whole
Okay.
checklist.
Thank you. Improved outdoor sports fields. I think the softball complex, and I put a number 1 by that and a number 1 by outdoor amphitheater. I would like those need to be primary core. I think, you know, if we're looking at economic development, especially at the softball complex, you know, if we can redo that and turf those fields and get some new fencing and parking, expansion on the parking, and, you know, light the other 2 fields, retrofit the 2 lit fields that we already have to LED. That's you know, the latest cost on that from our ESG group, our energy group, was $500,000. It was $350 for the new and $150 for the retrofit. You know, those softball fields for college and high school were approximately, you know, 35,000 square feet. Mid-range to do artificial turf is $8 a square foot. So you're looking at $250,000, $300,000 a field to do that. But you know, bringing teams in with these, you know, 30-team tournaments, and those people going to restaurants and doing functions in the community and hotel rooms, and, you know, I know that's kind of the big picture of what we're looking at. Outdoor amphitheater, you know, like as mentioned, you know, I think the horse shows are at a minimum. I'm not sure how the fair will approach those down the road. So that facility is prime for the way it lays. It's got power down there. There's lights. It is prime time to convert that to an outdoor amphitheater for concerts, plays, you know, the whole 9 yards. Let's see what else I got on there. Dog park improvements. One of the concerns I've heard on that is, you know, hey, it would be nice if it was a little bigger, maybe kind of wind it up in those trees a little bit and down the hill a little more. And then parking. You know, I've heard some that come out and they wish they could drive right to it, but you know, it's not that far away. But I just noted that on there. That was something that's come up. But you know, to summarize, you know, overall improvements to the softball complex be a huge draw to the community. Artificial turf, lights, fencing, dugouts, seating, concessions, scorekeeping, and maintenance are all needed improvements right here at Lakeview Park. And also mentioned that artificial turf at having some soccer fields, you know, a couple of great big ones with, you know, small ones already pre-painted and, you know, proper drainage and, you know, no rain outs unless it's actually storming, that type of thing. Same, that applies, same thing with the softball turf. Tertiary, moving on. I checked aquatic center. That's been a talk about indoor swimming pools for competition for our high schools. I think that's still needed. I am glad to hear that they've made some improvements to the KSU pool. I know the high schools have practiced there in the past and they're able to go back there and do that. And I believe the YMCA is also utilizing that facility to have some of their indoor swimming pool classes and stuff for people in the community. So that's why I checked that. And I don't know if that could be aquatic center, you know, as part of that field house stuff. So I mean, that's a lot to cover there. Existing conditions to remain or be improved. I checked the driving range. I touched on that earlier. Softball fields. You know, to turf them all would be 1.1 million. And then I mentioned the cost for the lights, $500,000. Maintenance barns, exhibit halls. Those are definitely needed. We need a maintenance shop out here. We've been working out of these barns for 30 years, and a nice maintenance shop sure would be nice where my guys don't have to roll around in the dirt. Then the horse arena, you know, like I say, that needs to be changed to amphitheater. Basically, what that means needs to be. And then there's some more notes down there. The golf course needs new irrigation. Driving range needs to be netted and added tee space, putting green. Softball fields mentioned above need a real maintenance shop. Then there's the horse arena conversion to amphitheater for concert shows, plays, festivals, etc. Page 3, additional. I put an additional thing in here for the amphitheater. I don't know where it would be a priority tier, but something really cool that we don't have as far as in the winter time, being able to turn that into an ice rink during Christmas and you know, having some Christmas decor throughout the park and just something for people to get out and do. And then in addition, you know, if it was an amphitheater and it had that concert staging area, you could do music and, you know, Christmas music and stuff. So then my last little question there, was there any thoughts to putting the indoor rec center in the green space behind the gatehouse? We saw a couple maps in our last meeting, and they didn't utilize probably one of the biggest fields, open fields that's available, that we for that field house type, you know, indoor recreation center. So I wanted to pass that along to the Hitchcock group, just so they knew that, you know, it's right now it's just overflow parking for the fair. You know, if we put a facility like that in there, it would include some parking so that the fair could use. And then right now there's disc golf there. And they've already talked about moving those those holes, those baskets over in behind the school where there's some more trees and some more elements, obstacles, that type of thing. So, you know, there's some green space there. I'm just throwing that out, and I'll leave it open for questions.
Okay. Terry?
I apologize for being behind on this, but at this point, are we just saying we have endless money and let's imagine what we want right now and then later we'll put dollars and cents to it? Or has there been like a feasibility study that says, you know, if you build a $4 million this, then you can expect to have a $5 million income? Does that exist yet, or is that later in this process?
That doesn't yet, but we have added additional monies to the Hitchcock group to give us an analysis when it's all said and done. The plan comes about on how some of these things could be built. So it is part of the overall master plan study.
Gotcha.
Okay. Charlie, I've got a couple questions, and then I know the Squires do, and then I really would like to hear from Keith Gallagher too. When it comes to the fair, as we're looking at, and we have seen, according to Hitchcock, some changes to the areas, proposed changes there. They're not in stone, but have you talked, or have you heard any discussion, and I don't recall it, what do we do about continuing to make sure there is grounds and places for the fair every year?
Not as of lately. No, I have not spoken with them lately. They do know we're in this process, and they were obviously invited. They were part of the stakeholder groups in the beginning. So, but not since we've seen a map as of this past meeting. I have not spoken with anyone on the fair board. No.
Okay. Did I hear somebody say? And one other question before we move on, Charlie, how often is the horse arena used, to your knowledge, over the past 3 or 4 years, or what, here recently?
Maybe as long as 4 years ago, they may have had an event during the fair down there, and it might not have necessarily been a horse show. It might have just been a kid show, maybe a little tractor pull of some kind, or little lawnmower type thing. I can't remember, but it's been a while. But that tells you how much is going on down there. I mean, as far as the latest things going on, or what the elected officials has had down there with the movie, with the Halloween stuff, and which is coming up again this year in a couple of weeks. So other than that, it's minimal. I mean, it's just there.
Robin, I see your hand up.
Thank you, Judge. I was just going to add or ask, I don't know if the folks at Hitchcock went out and spoke to Bruce at Lakeside Arena, but Lakeside Arena, of course, is a livestock and horse facility, and he's doing shows on a very regular basis. I know not the Franklin County Fair, but he might be. He's doing a pretty good business on the horse show front in our county. Just FYI, if you didn't already know.
So in other words, that's where it's all moved to now.
Maybe it's possible, excluding the Franklin County Fair component. Just wanted you to know that in case people weren't sure about that.
Good info. Thanks. Keith, can you give us an update where you are with the Y, and tell us just talk to us, because we haven't talk with you in a while, so we need to hear what the Y is doing.
Yeah, thanks, Judge. I don't have I don't have any comments as regards to Charlie. I will make just a few quick comments about the rec facility itself. I think it's a great concept for the community. I think it would be a great amenity for the community. I echo his comments about partnerships. I think the big piece about that is the financial sustainability of it operationally moving forward. So if it's a Y facility, if it's a parks facility or any type of facility, I think it'd be great for the community moving forward. But exploring partnerships, I think, would be ideal to help eliminate some of that risk. As it relates to the Y, we're doing a lot. I mean, obviously we're at Lakeview now. We're servicing around 2,000 kids and families out there a year through soccer, which has bounced back. As it relates to membership in the Y, we're seeing about 70% return since COVID. So of the 30,000 members we have in the YMCA of Central Kentucky, that's about 70% of where we were prior to COVID. And Frankfurt, obviously we're kind of sit and wait as it relates to the downtown project. We were full steam ahead prior to COVID. But right now we're patiently waiting through the process of that redevelopment of downtown and the developer, having conversations with the developer and the mayor pretty consistently on what that could look like once everything is worked out. But in the meantime, as Charlie referenced too, we are managing the pool at KSU, approximately 40 hours a week for our members in the swim team. So the swim teams do swim during the Y time over there at KSU, and seeing a lot of usage there. So it's kind of where we sit right now. So update wise, there's nothing really new, but sitting patiently as waiting to see what happens downtown, but exploring other partnership ideas and thoughts in the meantime.
Keith, the design of your building, did it include basketball courts, which could be used for volleyball? And did it include a swimming pool area?
Yeah, the initial designs prior to COVID was a 30,000 square foot facility. Again, since COVID happened, we haven't gone back to those designs or the thought around the plans. But it did include a pool and a gymnasium in it as well.
Okay, and that was a 30,000 square foot facility.
That
And
is
you
correct.
all, is your intention still to put it downtown if possible?
I think it all comes down to what the community needs are moving forward. So obviously, I think over the past 18 or 20 months, it gives us a time to reevaluate what are the community needs moving forward and how can we fit into those. So continually having that dialogue with obviously the county and the city and see how the Y can fit into any of these plans. If it is downtown or anywhere else in the community, how can the Y be a part?
Keith, I'm going to ask you this question. You may or may not have the information, but if you don't, maybe you could get back with us. In your preliminary thoughts, design for a 30,000 square foot YMCA with those amenities, did you have any idea what it would cost on a monthly or a yearly basis to operate a facility like that at 30,000 square feet?
Yeah, I think it all comes down to community support as well as memberships. I mean, if you really think about it, we're sitting at, as I referenced before, we're sitting at 70% of pre-COVID membership in our facilities here, both in Frankfurt and Lexington. So I think that we would probably have to reevaluate that pro forma and see what our actually do a study and see what the membership would be in that type of facility for our community.
Okay.
To put together an accurate pro forma for you.
Okay. Charlie?
Thanks, Judge. Keith, while we got you on the hot seat, the Whitaker YMCA up in Lexington, I know that's a relatively new facility. What is the square foot of that facility, and do you know what it costs to construct?
I do not. I can tell you that my guess would be probably around 65,000 square feet, 70,000 square feet. It's currently sitting around 11,000 members right now. And my guess would be that facility alone is, the construction cost now is probably $250 a square foot. I mean, I can't tell you what we paid for it at the time, but I mean, working with developers now, I know the construction costs have gone up, so I'm sure it's between $200, $250 a square foot.
Thank you.
Can you give us an idea on what it costs monthly or yearly to maintain? In what? Utilities cost to keep the building open, the doors open.
Yeah, I don't have those numbers in front of me right now, but I mean, it would probably vary from facility based on amenities as well. I mean, obviously a Beaumont or a Gatton YMCA in Lexington has three pools, has an indoor pool, a warm water indoor pool, and an outdoor pool. A pool like North Lexington YMCA just has a basic 5-lane indoor pool. So I think the square footage and amenities alone would vary based in the cost, the expenses around those would vary based on facilities.
Okay.
I mean, I'd be happy to share any of that and dig some information out if you'd like.
I'd appreciate it. If you wouldn't mind getting back with us, letting us, let me know. We'll share it with the group. Robin?
For what it's worth, and this is dated information, but the convention center, which was about 20,000 square feet, you know, just a big empty arena, that the total cost of operations was about 500,000 a year.
That included utilities and personnel?
Not all utilities, personnel, some utilities, you know, and maintenance and things like that.
Didn't the state supply some personnel and take care of the utilities in that building?
The state took care of some of the utilities, but not the personnel. That was part of the operating cost.
Okay. And it's 20,000 square feet. Is that what the Civic Center was?
And yeah, including the front and back lobbies and the meeting space and so on.
Okay.
I don't know if that's a valid, you know, comparison. I'm just giving it to you.
That was several years ago. Okay.
Yeah.
It's good for us to hear that. I think it's without question. Are there any questions for Charlie at his report? Thank you, Charlie, for your report. Robert as well, Squire Muller, Squire Tracy. Or any questions by the squires for anybody, Keith Gallagher or anything like that? Robin? No? Squire Muller?
No, Judge, I just wanted to thank Keith for being on here. You know, I mean, I think that's one of the things during our park committee meetings we've talked a lot about is you know, where the YMCA is and trying to figure out how everybody fits together. So I just want to thank him for being on this call today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Keith, if as we move forward, can you, to the best of your ability, give us a commitment that you still want to continue the partnership with the Franklin County Fiscal Court at Lakeview Park?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think it's a huge need. I mean, it's great to see the amount of families, and I mean, every weekend you go, every Saturday you go out there, and the families out at Lakeview. It's great.
All right, great. Thank you, Keith. Hang on, because we're not even halfway through yet, so we're going to keep moving. All right. Anybody else? All right, Miss Annie, thank you, and it's your turn to go over. We appreciate what Charlie and Robert have done, and we also are going to hear what you've got for us. Thank you.
Sure. Good morning. I can't say how much I agree with everything that's been said so far from Robert and Charlie and Keith and everybody that's already expressed some opinions. Under the primary core elements, I had checked golf course improvements because I don't really know anything about golf courses, but I thought, well, Charlie will know. And if the consultants have called that out, there must be some needed improvements there. And I know how popular that amenity is. as well as the increased size and inclusivity of the playground. But my number one that I would move to primary core would be the improved outdoor sports fields, because we know we have a great framework in place for partnership to try to take that next step towards sports tourism. And we have some opportunities, hopefully through some grant funds, to help us to start toward that goal. So that would be my number one. And then I also agreed that that horse arena would make an excellent outdoor amphitheater. We have, we could start out gradually, because of course we already have a sound system down there, and we can start working towards something we can really be proud of in that area. The field house concept, I think that at some point we will need to consider an indoor sports facility of some type, but I just don't think we're there yet. I don't think we know, without, as Keith and Charlie and Robert have all said, I don't think we know without continued conversations with all of the agencies that we're going to have as partners. I don't think we know what the size of that would be, what the amenities would be, and what would be more appropriate in another place, or what could happen in another place. I agree that we need to continue the conversations with the city, with the Y, with the state, with the school systems, and with Kentucky State, so that we can all work together to see where we can have everything that our community is asking us for. Because I think when we do those surveys, and everybody says, we want this, we want this, we want this, I think, yes, that's what they want. They don't necessarily think we have to put everything in one spot. They're just saying, we want this in our community. And I think that we can work together. We have a newly formed economic development committee that can take this great master plan and the master plan that's been done for the city parks and rec, and take that as building blocks to start working towards some of the answers to those questions. On the tertiary additional, I didn't check anything there. I think we're so far out from that at this point, that when those opportunities, for their unexpected opportunities arise, that can certainly be considered. But I think we have a lot of things to accomplish first. Under the existing conditions to remain and or be improved, I would check every one of them as to remain, and improvements on a lot of them. For example, exhibit halls and some of the associated buildings. I've seen some really creative things done with rural buildings that could lend themselves to better use in Lakeview Park. I know that the splash pad is really, really popular, and it'd be great to have a bigger one, but we also know that that's going to require a recirculating system. So that's another big budget item there. Because right now our water bills are pretty tall on just the splash pad that we have. One thing I would say is I didn't check overall improved circulation, but after thinking about it, I think I would, because I think we desperately need that entrance path for pedestrians, that we have a grant standing by to help us start with that project. Depending on where maybe I like Charlie's idea of the green space up by the entrance of the park for a future recreational facility, which would let us maybe not have as much impact on some of the roadways within the park, and kind of help maintain that park atmosphere, rather than a lot of more road square footage that would make it a little more challenging for our trail system and pedestrians, and kind of take away from that park atmosphere. It would become more of a parking lot and a big structure with a few recreational opportunities around it. And I would rather see it as set apart as possible, so we can still maintain that park atmosphere for our community. But I definitely think that the sports tourism is a good number one goal, because both our master plan and the city's master plan have called that out. We have the framework in place. We have great park directors who know how to structure that and help us move along toward attracting more of those tournaments. And I'm glad that Robin and Terry are here, because they're helping to provide information for that grant application if the committee is still supportive of that. And they can answer questions on on our tourism numbers and economic development that, that may affect this kind of project. So that would be it.
Oh, okay, Annie, would you, Terry, Robin, all elaborate on, once again, on what you're asking? I believe you want to make sure that the park committee is ready to move forward to the fiscal court, I guess, on Thursday about this grant opportunity.
Yes, we would like to submit a joint application with Franklin County and the city of Frankfort for an economic development grant that is due to the pandemic. That's why it exists. So it's for tourism and outdoor recreation that will benefit your local economy. And we feel like this is a great opportunity for us to frame Frankfort, Franklin County as a destination spot for tourism, for sports tourism, especially with the combination of the number of fields we would have between Lakeview Park and Capitol View, that we could truly showcase our community and provide more diamond fields than any of the other facilities, certainly in our region and within most of the state. We feel like it could be a great draw, and we would really like the opportunity to see if we can get these funds for Frankfort and Franklin County.
It would be additional fields at Capitol View, and it would be lit fields at
It would be,
Lakeview.
it would go along with a description of what our goal is for our sports fields, but calling out the use of federal funds plus the local match for things like the lighting of the fields and the synthetic turf, as much as we could accomplish with those federal funds. And then our match could also include, if we want to put in additional funds for example, improvements to restrooms or, other amenities that those fields need. So 20% match is required. The higher the match, the more competitive your application is. So if we're planning to try to accomplish something with sports tourism and want to pledge a little bit higher match than that, that's good for us. Economic development also loves capital cities, so that gives us another plus. So this is a highly competitive grant program. They're expecting 10 times the amount of requests than they have funds for. So our economic development regional representative, Ms. Parton, has recommended to us that we apply for no more than the $3 million project, which would be $1.5 million for each park. 1.2 million would be federal funds, 300,000 would be the 20% local match. So that's what we're looking at, and we think we could go a long way toward lighting fields at Lakeview and maybe starting some synthetic turf installation, or whatever is determined that would be the initial needs to make those fields more attractive for tournaments.
Terry, this is a joint application with the city and the county, and you found this out, I think, through Andy Seth in Washington. Do you want to elaborate on any more on it?
Well, I would say that our big leveraging point for this application is the match that we will ultimately have. And that's why we thought it was pretty important that we bring this to the court, because, as Ann said, the city and the county already are committed to doing lots of work at the park. And so when you are writing a grant, when we're writing this grant, we would incorporate all those already intended activities that the city and county already plan to pay for in the entire grant application and into the entire sports tourism concept. So realistically, and I'm making up numbers, but if you are already anticipating that you'll spend $10 million on park renovations and park build outs, and the city's, let's pretend, saying they're going to spend $10 million, and we're asking for only $3 million in this grant, you have far greater than a 20% match. And the match, the commitment from the local communities, the commitment from the applicants on these applications is vital. And when you show that not only did you make the 20% match, but you made the 200% match, that matters a lot in the grant application process. The only thing I would say about, and Ann and Rebecca and Robin and I talked about this at great length, and Michael and Scotty and the judge hear or see me send emails about it all the time, is that this workforce development issue that we and other communities are facing at this time is serious, and it's not getting any better quickly. And so there are going to be a lot of jobs out there that are part-time jobs that we'll have a hard time filling. And so I would only say that my kids play travel ball, soccer, and baseball. And so we spend a lot of time in other communities. And I can tell you the ones who did this well, and I can tell you the ones who did not do it well. So I would just say that bigger is not necessarily better. Better is better. And so as we go through this process, recognizing what we can do well as opposed to what we can do is really important.
There's over $300,000 from this community invested in master plans for the two park systems. So are you saying that those master plans, the ideas, the concepts that are out there on the table will or will not, or would they help the grant application that will be used?
Those will most certainly help. Anytime that you're asking the federal government for money and you have proof that you have previously spent their money well, or proof that you have a true plan to spend their money, you move closer to the top of the list always. Yes.
Okay. Robin, did you want to say anything on that?
Well, I would echo what Terry just said. And I think that, we have the work that you all are doing for the Lakeview Park Plan and the city's master plan. So, applying for this grant is a way to jumpstart getting some things done. And, we've got, I believe sooner than later, the application is due. So we do have some homework to do to get that ready. But it's an opportunity, and I think a joint application would go a long ways toward putting us in a competitive range for it.
Okay, doke. All right. Any other questions for any of the panelists? Robert, if you don't mind, Charlie brought up something, and you the other day said that you could put it up on your computer, a rendering of how 160,000 square foot building could fit in the piece of property that Charlie was talking about on the entrance coming in with a little bit of redesign. Can you bring that up and show that?
Yes, sir.
Now, this is this space to the right as you come in Lakeview Park, right? The red line. Go ahead, Robert. You explain what you've looked at.
So I've identified the field house and scaled it off to 160,000 square feet, and just for the assumption, I've created a parking lot with it. Now, whether that's the appropriate size for the parking lot or not, I don't know, but I just wanted to make sure that we accounted for that. The red line shows how Park Avenue could be realigned to allow for the space for the parking lot, and then to also show that it would not interfere with the driving range. So as a comparison, I also scaled off the factory across the street, Meritor, which is at approximately 181,000 square feet. It's also a single-story building, as well as my prediction on a field house, a single-story, 160,000 square foot building. So this location would accommodate this activity without the need to relocate any other existing features within the park.
Okay, just perceptually, visually seeing how this would or could fit in the park, even though that's not how Hitchcock designed it, but that is an idea.
Yes, sir.
Scotty, I don't see, Michael, you all have any questions, any thoughts on that? Nope, okay, Michael, I guess Michael, are you there? All right, I guess we're gonna have to hold up because, do we have to do that as a committee or just in the voting session? Can we
Because-
continue on as a committee because the quorum is still here?
Yeah, I don't think it has anything to do with the quorum. It's just that all members have to be able to be seen and heard
On
of the public,
a committee too?
that a public, a committee is a public meeting, yes.
All right. It looks like we're gonna have to wait. I don't know. Look, we'll continue talking, but we'll get into ours when Squire Muller comes back. Squire Tracy?
Judge, if you don't care, I'm gonna run and get a bottle of water.
Okay, well, let's just recess for a second.
Trying to
Everybody.
figure out why my video stopped, so I'm working on it, Judge. It's not working. I don't know why.
Okay,
You might want to log off and try to log back on since we're in recess.
you want to say that to him?
Squire Muller, you may try to log off and log back on and see if that helps since.
Okay, yeah, I don't know if I
We'll take
kicked
a
something.
recess.
Okay, I'll do it.
Be right back.
All right, it works.
All right, we're gonna get into the irons, I guess. We're all live.
Yeah, it didn't look like it was in recess.
For those of you who are watching, if you are watching, if we can be seen, this, we're at on recess with this park committee meeting, and we'll get back in just a few minutes. We had some difficulty with a video of one of the magistrates being on, and so we're getting that worked out, and hopefully we'll be able to come back on in just a moment. All right.
Hey, Judge, I'm good. I don't know. I just had to get off and then get back on, so it's working now.
Okay, all right. Everybody else back on? Ann, Robert, Charlie, Terry, Robin, okay,
Yep.
Keith. All right, everybody back? Okay, we're coming back out of recess. Once again, this is the Lakeview Park Master Plan Park Committee meeting. And if you're ready to go, Squires, let's, if you will pull up your sheet. And what I would like to do, I don't, unless you want to send 3 of them or 6 of them, you want to just send one with a consensus? How do you want to do it? I think Hitchcock would probably prefer to have one. coming from the committee, but I'll do it however y'all want to do it.
I would agree, Judge. I think they just need what direction we want them to go in. So I would agree with the one copy.
Okay, Squire, Tracy, you all right with that? And then what we we'll either come to consensus or we'll end up voting wherever it is. Is that fair enough? And majority rules on it? All right. Let's start with the primary core elements. Remember, there are three pieces: the primary, the secondary, and the tertiary as part of this plan. So let's go with the primary core elements to be added to existing park layout. The first one is a field house, approximately 160,000 square foot multifunctional recreational space, event center, and exhibit space. You've heard others, and so Squire Muller, you've got your hand up. You're first up.
Judge, at first, I just want to thank everybody for their input. I really do. I mean, everyone's had good things to say. I guess the way I'm looking at this, where we are in this process is, we've paid a good bit of money for a feasibility / master plan study. So when I think of that, I think of similar to what we do. If somebody wants us to design something, we design the stars, the moon, the sky, what could be the potential for your community, and we've had consultants say, hey, this is what, the 1,200 people have said in your community. This is also what is needed in Central Kentucky per se, kind of to, Terry's point, bigger is not always better. And I think there's been some concerns of how we're going to pay for it and how we're going to do this. I think we'll get there. But to me, since we've paid X amount of money, I'm looking at this like, what would be the best project? Let's say the YMCA comes on board. Let's say the city comes on board, the state. So to me, I'm looking at this as, we've paid that amount of money. Let's go ahead and get a master plan as far as the biggest, the baddest of what could be. And then we will get to the point that we say it's going to cost, to your point, Judge, we've paid extra for, what is it going to cost to run this facility or these ball fields or this amphitheater? I think we're going to get there, but we're not there right now. So to me, I would almost like to see all this on a master plan. So I looked at it as pretty much doing most of this on the master plan because we paid for it, but then breaking it down to, phase one, what we think we could financially bite off and what makes sense, and phase two and phase three. So I just kind of wanted to throw that out there, I guess, before we got going, just so everybody understood where I'm coming from, if that makes sense, Judge.
It makes sense. Squire Tracy.
Thank you, Judge Wells. That's kind of what I was saying earlier when I said that I was looking from like 20,000 feet. I'm looking big picture. This group is supposed to bring back a master plan, and I think that's what I'm looking for too. I think the community, they express their desires, their wants. The Hitchcock Design Group has done their homework in regards to what we need regionally. They've done that part of it, and now they're waiting on us to send back the programs that's selected by the committee to do the master plan.
Okay. I'm going to somewhat I've been around longer than you guys have, especially you, Squire Muller, and I've seen plans put on the table, plans being made. They're collecting dust. I don't think we spent a whole lot of money to collect dust here because we put everything in there that you want, and you put everything in, you don't get anything that you want because you're bogged down on trying to get the biggest thing, and you don't do it. So I think I appreciate where you're coming from, but I think you're moving in a direction that could end up bogging the whole process down. I think what we should do is prioritize and things that we can get done immediately and move that way. That way people can see that we are trying to do things and not get bogged down. So I'm going to disagree, but I will say that I think it's fair enough what you all said, and I'll do what the majority wants. Squire Tracy.
Judge Wells, quick question. Can that not be done after the master plan comes back? I mean, can we not look at it and say, okay, you know, here's the master plan and what the layout will be of the park. After that master plan comes back and the layout is identified and it's clear to everyone, I can't imagine why we couldn't do it. I think it would also help Ms. Bradshaw with the grant as well, because she's going to have hard documents that show, look at this park, look at what this group is look what our community is trying to do at this park. So I don't disagree with what you're saying. I'm just saying after we get this master plan back, is that not something that we could look at?
Well, obviously, yes, you can look at it, but what I'm saying is just like Keith Gallagher's here from the YMCA, and for 4 years now, I think Keith has been trying to get something done, a new YMCA. And when we're talking about a magnitude of 160,000 square foot building and the amount of energy it's going to take to try to get something like that in built, it's going to consume all the oxygen. And, Keith Gallagher and the YMCA is trying to build a 30,000 square foot building. 30,000 and 160,000 is a huge difference. And so my point is let's move forward on things that we know we can get done, that including the people that took the surveys, that they all said they'd like to see get done as well. The 160,000 square foot building will consume all the oxygen, and there's no question about that. And we know that you can't do anything until you decide what's going to happen with that 160,000 square foot building, because it's going to be enormous in the park. So that's my thought. But hey, we're a majority and rules, and I have no problem moving forward. Whatever y'all want. Squire Muller.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I mean, it always, to me, and I hear what you're saying, but I mean, we can always not do the building, at least it's on the master plan. I mean, so that's the way I'm looking at it, because we paid for the plan. So how do you want to do this next part, Judge? You just want us individually to run down our sheets, or do you want to go first and just kind of tell us your thoughts, or how do you want to do it?
I'll start with you. Let's just go one at a time. Fieldhouse.
I have the field house on there because that's pretty much what the Hitchcock Group came back and said that what this community wants and can use. So I have that going on the plan.
You have it stay in the primary?
Yes. And
Okay.
then, kind of where it's going, just here in Mark Top of the schools, I think one thing to add to it would be also a performing arts center, as far as, maybe instead of exhibit space, but that's just some of the notes that I had on there.
Squire Tracy.
I agree.
Okay. Now let me make this clear. I'm not saying that it can't be roughed in as part of a design. I'm just saying that it doesn't need to be primary, because you put the primary, that means that you're going to use all your energy to get it. I'm thinking that it should be a 3 and not a primary. So that's in a tertiary mode. So you all have got it. So that's we're going to keep it there. I'm just going to put a check by it, keep it. Is that fair enough?
Yes, sir.
All right. The next one is golf course improvements. Squire Muller, let's just keep going down the line. You're first.
That's fine. I guess I'm looking at this as 1, 2, 3, Judge, is how I'm doing it.
That's the way I'm looking at it too.
Okay.
And
I
I'm
had
putting an
that as 3,
X
and then
meaning if it's, go ahead, sorry.
I had it as 3, and then I had signage / irrigation system, because I know that's what Charlie has been talking about, needing that improvement. So that's what I have, sir.
You have it as a 3? Squire Tracy?
if you're going to go 1, 2, and 3 on it, Hitchcock touched on the signage. I think if you're going to do a master plan and you're going to want the golf course to pop, I definitely think signage needs to be higher than, at the top of the, I can't imagine redoing a park and leaving the sign that's currently there. So again, that's why I was saying I'm looking at it from an elevated view but I do have it in there.
Well, what number would you give it?
I'll go 1.
Keep it there, okay? All right, and I say 2, so let's come back and try to figure out what you want to do with it. You say one says 3, one says 1, one says 2. I can keep it at 1. I can move it to 1. I'll move mine to 1. So we'll just keep it with an X, right?
Sounds good.
Overall improved circulation.
Judge, I had that as number 1. I think that's one of the things when we first started, when I became on the park project, I think it's one of the things that I had talked about as far as it not making exactly sense how the roads are and moving things around the way they are. So I have that as number 1.
Okay. Tracy?
I do too.
Okay, I don't disagree on that one. All right, increased size and inclusivity of the playground.
Judge, I have that as number 2, but my side notes are I'd like to see a more natural playground. And then I would love to see something that would include a playground for the blind and autistic. And I think Charlie might have hit on that a little bit too. So I have that as a number 2, sir.
Okay. Squire Tracy?
I had it as a 3, but I can come to a 2.
I had it as a 3. You want to keep it as a 3 or you want to keep it as a 3 or?
It does.
All right.
That's fine either way.
All right. The next one is the secondary core elements, or unless you want to have Squire Muller, do you want me to add something about for a disability playground?
I think that's one of those. I think we would have a very good potential of getting maybe a grant for something like that. And I know it's needed, I've met a lot of people in this community that have expressed, a wheelchair swing. And I know that's been talked about for years. So, we could, but like I said, I think to me, it's all about just getting it on the plan, and where it would go and how it would function. And then we can figure out where we're going from there.
Okay, but we won't say anything. Let's go to secondary core elements, improved outdoor sports fields.
I went ahead and I know we've talked about redoing the softball fields and Ann seems like she's working on that. And I know the multi-use fields are huge as far as what the district per se could use. I went ahead, instead of being secondary, I put a 1 next to that. So I just looked at all these as 1, 2, 3, Judge.
Okay, I did. Scotty?
Yeah, I have that as 1 as well.
I did too. Okay. So I'm moving that. I'm putting a 1 in by that one. Outdoor amphitheater.
Judge, I think everybody on this conversation has hit on this one, and I'm a 1 on this one. I think it's a no-brainer.
You're shaking your heads.
I am as well, sir.
I agree. I had it too. Increased size of splash pad.
Judge, I had this at 3, and I think Ann hit on this. It's pretty costly. I know the kids like it, but I know there's maybe some other options down the road. So I had this as 3.
Tracy?
Judge, I had this as a 2, and the reason why is I moved it up to a 2 because I had pavilion improvements and shelters I have it ranked up there pretty high. And I think if you're going to do 1 with the location of the splash pad, it just seemed like it made more sense to me to look at them both. So I had it I've got it as a 2.
All right, I have it as a 3. I think minimally, Charlie, as we move through this, we can look at new types of splash equipment, water equipment in the newer and new types of those things, but I have it as a 3, so the majority is 3 on that one. Dog improvements.
You know, I have it as a 2, but I have moving it, you know, next to a parking lot. I mean, we've worked on some projects and it seems like every dog park that I've ever seen is next to a parking lot. And I know Charlie said it's not too far off, but you know, as we all know, people are kind of lazy. So I had it as a 2, but to move it next to the parking lot.
Squire Tracy.
I've got it moved as well. I've got it, I think when you're thinking about the dog park, you know, I think accessibility is important. And I think you look at it, you go downhill and then right back uphill. There's nothing around it as far as if you need to use a bathroom or a facility for individuals that take their dogs there, and there's no shade per se. I know that was a big issue. And I have it as a 2. Again, I'm just looking at things a little different, but totally up to the majority.
Okay. I had it as a 3. I thought shade and those types of things could be done. We did put it away from, because we had soccer fields, and you, I think you were on the court when we did put it there, Squire Tracy. We thought that was at the time the best place to put it, but
Right. No, I agree with you, Judge. I was, and you know, I kind of look back now, and I thank goodness that the court agreed to hire professional planners, because that's a prime example of I'm not a professional park planner. So.
okay. So we're going to have it as a 2. Pavilion improvements, additional shelters.
Judge, I had this at 2. I mean, it's kind of a general, I guess, statement. I mean, I don't know where they're going to go with it, but I had it as a 2 because I think it's necessary.
Okay.
I had it as 2 as well, Judge.
All right. I had a 2 as well. Okay. Next page. And by the way, anybody wants to speak up at any time, anybody that's on, please just say something or raise your hand if I can't see you, whatever. Let's go to tertiary, unless there you want any comments. Did anybody want, you all want comments? Okay, let's go to tertiary. Land will be required, quite possibly. So aquatic center.
Judge, I honestly just lump these together and I asked if they put it on a master plan for future. Obviously, the aquatic center would be totally, you know, what the YMCA does, you know, I mean, and how things are going with KSU. You know, I think Phil from Pros hit on the overnight accommodation. So, you know, what if we could, you know, squeeze a hotel or 2 in the park, you know, for tournaments and stuff, and then obviously more sports fields would be great. So I just had all 3 going on the master plan, just future. I don't know if that's how you all want to do it or not.
Squire Tracy.
I kind of looked at it like from the group, what they had referenced in regards to the aquatic center. They made reference to Woodford, and I think it was Woodford and Scott. They referenced. Again, I know Phil touched on overnight accommodations, but I have a 1 on the additional outdoor sports fields. You know, my question or one of the questions that was asked was, do diamond fields, which field is a revenue generator if you're setting them side by side? And I think the firm's answer was the rectangle field. So I have that I have the fields as a 1.
Okay, I have fields as a 1, and I'm gonna say this. I should have said something to I'm not sure if was it Phil or someone when I asked about outdoor tennis courts. Why are they not part of the design? And he said because only 2 people play. There's 6 courts. There's 4 that can be on each side. That's 24 people. Softball, you got 9 people. So don't tell me that tennis can't bring in events and can't be something good for the community. So I think outdoor tennis courts, without question, ought to be considered. But I won't write that in there unless you ask, allow me to, but additional outdoor sports fields. So you have a 1 and I have a 1, Squire, that will go with that. And I'm just going to put an X by aquatic center and an X by overnight accommodations based on what everybody's saying. Is that right?
Judge, quick question. If you don't mind, I'd like to reference back to what the group made reference to, and I guess I don't know who makes that contact or if they do or however that works, but I know they had referenced in regards to trying to work with the school system to in regards to playing on making their field a 5th field, and I think they referenced championship field, and then also on additional outdoor sports field. I would like to make sure it's referenced as multi-use turf fields, and I think he used the word rectangle, but I'd like to use multi-use turf fields.
It's the only thing that we're asking for? Is that what you're saying?
No, I just want to make sure I'm clear on where it says additional outdoor sports fields. I just wanted to make sure I was clear on what I was saying.
I don't know. We'll have to let him answer that. I don't.
That's fine. Okay, that's fine.
Okay, so I've got in this one an X for aquatic center, an X for overnight accommodations, and a 1 for additional sports outdoor fields. Okay. The next one is existing conditions to remain and or to be improved. Driving range. You want an X or you want let it go?
Judge, I had that one up in the air. I didn't have an X next to it. Just, I didn't want to hinder their design ability. So I know we're looking to do improvements on the golf course itself. So I did not have the driving range on mine.
Okay, you don't have an X, Squire Tracy?
I've got facility was referenced by a firm during discussion. Master park plan recommendations, what I've got.
Well, now put that in English terms for me. I'm not sure what you.
So I guess if the master plan recommendation comes back and it's got them, then we've got them. If it comes back and they're taken out, they're taken out. So, but I do know that.
X or no X?
No X.
All right, there's no X because that's 2 of you. Skate park.
Yes, I had an X, and I think the way it's situated now, I can't imagine they can't work around it. And we've put a lot of work into that. So I have an X next to that, Judge.
Tracy?
Yeah, I've got an X. I've got location is fine, and a lot of attention has been put in that direction over the last several years.
Softball fields.
Yes, X.
Tracy?
X.
Walking trails.
X. I'd love to see more, but yes.
All right. Scotty, as we go through, just shake your head and see. So we can, Carter House and associated buildings.
Judge, I have an X, but I kind of have a notation here that I've still never understood why the main entrance comes off Stedman Town. So my vision, and then so I know it's not up to me, but it's up to them, would be that the Carter House almost becomes the main office for Charlie and his staff and, visitor center. So I have an X next to it.
Okay, that wasn't in the design, so, but we'll talk about that. You remember, that is where we get revenue. People do rent that all the time, so something to think about. Carter House, I've got an X too. Tracy, you're okay with it?
I've got a notation, just work with Charlie in regards to maintenance shop. It's what I've got out beside it. So yeah, but I'm fine.
Maintenance barns, exhibit halls.
Judges, explain how you're reading that. Are we talking about just the two barns that are, that Charlie now, or Charlie, maybe you could help me. Are we talking about the two barns that you all are using now for storage and maintenance, and that's your shop?
Yes, that is currently our shop. One barn, we have park equipment and, tools and whatever's needed. And then the other barn is golf equipment. So we've kind of got it separated out to where, the one on the golf side is the golf maintenance area with associated equipment and tools, et cetera, storage.
Charlie, what kind of shape are those barns in? I know we've talked about them a little bit over the last 3 years. I mean, are they structurally good barns?
They're great. Yeah. They're really well built. But it's just when we get into the cool weather and we take stuff down to the Farm Bureau Pavilion. We've got a little corner down there where we heat. It's not energy efficient. And that's where we go through each piece of equipment every winter and service it, very detailed, clean it up and get it ready for the next season. It's not user friendly.
Okay, thank you. So Judge, on this, what I had was, kind of hitting on what Charlie's been talking about is relocate the maintenance shop. I had down here, if the barns were in good shape, turn one into a rentable wedding venue, and then the other one across the road that I think they have their shop in now would become storage for that rental, for chairs and tables and stuff like that. So I guess if you're asking me, I have an X next to it. So
Okay. All right. Horse Arena.
No X there, Judge.
I'd love to see it amphitheater. So I don't put an X in there either. Motorsports Arena.
I have an X next to it. And I think we've touched on, Squire Moore and probably Squire Sebastian too. And I think we can do more events there if it was better. And I don't think financially it would cost that much to get it in shape. So I have an X next to that, Judge.
Okay. Squire Tracy, you're good at that?
I agree.
Pickleball courts.
I can go either way on that. I listen to you all. We just built those two. I mean, I don't think they would be in the way of any design thing. So I can go either way on those with you all.
I got an X.
I'm the same. I mean, I think the city's trying to expand on theirs as well, so I can go either way.
Disc golf.
I didn't have an X, and I think Charlie hit on this too. They're talking about even moving what they have built right now before we even talk about anything else. And then I was with some guys over the weekend who said they're expanding, I think, at Capitol View, trying to tie it into the mountain bike course also. So I didn't have an X on this one, but I think we can work around that.
Scotty.
I agree.
Okay, well, okay, so we've got an X by skate park, softball fields, walking trails, Carter House, maintenance barns, motorsports, and pickleball. Everybody agree with that? All right, the next page, additional amenities to be explored, priority tier and amenity. All right, what do you got?
Judge, the one thing I have is connectivity to the Elkhorn Creek, but I know that's a whole nother beast there. So I don't know if it's worth putting on there.
That's all you have?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you want me to put that on there or not?
Yeah, go ahead and put it on there. I mean, the more I look at it, we have that easement through the electrical thing. So I think it's something we need to look at. So yes, if you would put it on there.
And priority tier?
I would love to see it. I mean, I think, the Elkhorn Creek's one of our coolest resources. And if we could get people that are at the park and can get them there in a safe manner, I just think it would be really cool. So, yeah.
What's your priority? 1, 2, or 3?
I'm only one, so I'm gonna say one.
Okay. Scotty, you got one?
I've got a couple. I've got charging stations.
Okay.
And then I have more water stations. I know that we've got a couple up around the pavilion, but as far as on that backside, just different spots, just, you know, options. And Squire Muller touched on connectivity. I'd like to see, you know, that backside. I guess it would just make sense for me if it went all the way to the school. If you could come off Indian Hills somehow, some way, come out of that little area there and shoot to the school. I think big picture, just connectivity in general.
To Indian Hills, is that what you're saying?
Indian Hills, yeah, to the schools. I think Silver Lake 2 is okay. I'm not sure Silver Lake 1 is okay, but I'm not sure we couldn't somehow, some way make it a little more safer for Raven Crest and Silver Lake 2 to walk if they're walking. But like I said, I'm just throwing out ideas that I put down.
Charlie, you raise your hand?
Thanks, Judge. Yeah. Squire Tracy hits on a great point there as far as safety for the kids, the connectivity coming out of Silver Lake 2 and Raven Crest down through there. He probably sees it as well as I do, as well as Squire Muller. Kids walking in the grass over there down the side of the road as cars race to work in the mornings and even in the afternoons. So that's a great idea. That's a good point. Thanks.
Ann, did you want to say something?
Yes, and I think that that's another great opportunity that we could probably look for some grant funds with the cooperation of the city. For example, that Safe Routes to School program. That's how we got the path along the park, the entrance to the park, all the way down to the beginning of Indian Hills. That was Safe Routes to School several years ago. Robert and I worked on that. I think there's a possibility that we could co-sponsor a grant application with the city for that type of path in the area that you're discussing.
And also on top of that, I'd like to see us work with transportation and have a crosswalk there with buttons to push for people to be able to push the button and cross, and with the crosswalk signage, cross now with the hands up and all of that, and the timing of walking across there. I think that would be a huge part of connectivity if we could include that in a grant.
That grant program is actually through transportation. So I'm sure that could be written into possibly the scope of that type of application. Because that's what the purpose of that grant is safe routes to school. So safe pathways for children to be able to get to school grounds. So that's definitely something we can explore. Could I ask a question while I'm on here of, this is a little bit off track where we are, but I wanted to ask Robert, are there any zoning requirements or restrictions that would limit, for example, the height of a facility at Lakeview Park or anything related to surrounding neighborhoods that would be helpful for us to let a consultant know?
Good question.
KRS exempts county government from its own regulations. So the height standard in the zoning ordinance would not apply for a county constructed facility. Depending on the location of the building, if it were located where I showed in my map, I don't believe a scale of that size would detract from any of the adjacent neighborhoods. I would be concerned if we butt a building up to one of the neighborhoods. That would be a concern because then you're dealing with traffic and lights and garbage trucks and things of that nature, delivery vehicles. But if you can keep it out closer to the Stedman town or something, then no, there would be nothing that would restrict the height of the building.
Is there something through transportation that we need to be aware of as far as access to, say, the type of traffic numbers we would be talking about?
Yes, a traffic study would be important to have. Now, if a facility is constructed and if the existing entrance of Park Avenue is utilized, then an encroachment permit from the cabinet would not be required. However, I would think it'd be in the best interest of the county to have the study done so the intersection of Georgetown Road and Stedmantown Lane could be analyzed for the potential need of increasing the depth of the turning pocket or maybe some signal timing changes.
Thank you.
All right, good question. All right. Squire Tracy, are you okay? And give me your priority numbers, 1, 2, or 3 for charging station.
I've got two.
Okay.
Two.
Water stations, 2, and connectivity to schools.
1.
All right. Good ideas. I'm going to say amenity, amphitheater. Amphitheater and building. That's one I'd like to see.
I thought that was you're talking about indoor or outdoor, Judge?
I'm talking about a building down on the horse park before we can do concerts.
We've already got an amphitheater listed.
Well, I know it, but it doesn't really mention a building per se. I want it to be a building where you can dress, you can do performing arts, you can have concerts, you can have restrooms out of that building on the arena, in the arena itself, is what I'm thinking. I have not seen any building design, any talk about, I've just seen amphitheater. So I'm redefining what amphitheater should be. This is my thought.
No, I got you. No,
yeah. And I'm going to make that a 1, and 2 outdoor tennis courts. And I'll put that as a 1 as well. So those are mine. I think everybody's got great ideas. Good for the community and the way it looks. With that being said, I think we've come to the end of it. I will make sure that this gets sent out to the Hitchcock Group.
will you send us a copy, Judge?
We sure will.
Because
Everybody that was on today, we'll make sure that everybody, including our guests, will get a copy of what is sent out. Okay, Charlie, you had a question. Charlie, you had a question.
Yes, thanks, Judge. Just real quick, while we're talking about, development and making everything look nice, park improvements, I wanted to throw out there, I think we've hit on it before, but the in between out on US 460, the median where the grass is, I think that could be landscaped and made look nice, as kind of a welcome to Franklin County area, kind of dress that area up.
I like that, Charlie.
I know it's out on the state right of way, what have you, and we'd have to jump through those hoops, but I think there, other than just grass out there and them going out there and mowing it and blowing the road, I think that's an opportunity to kind of make it look nice. So I'm just throwing it out there while we're in these discussions. I appreciate it.
And could that be part of the grant?
I'm not sure. Have to do a little looking into that because it's not our property, it'd be something we'd have to coordinate. I just wanted to ask a question of the committee. I had sent out some information after asking you guys about the grant application at our last meeting. I just wanted to make sure that I have it on the court agenda for this week. I just wanted to see if you are in support of that. And Robin and Terry are both here if you had any question as far as our tourism numbers or economic development associated with that kind of project.
And as far as the grant, I'm all for it. Go get some money. Let's get going. So thank you.
We'll sure try.
Squire Tracy?
And a couple questions in regards to the fields. So we're basically being told it's just the baseball and softball fields?
I think that's what we had spoken about, that is our immediate need for attracting more of those tournaments, because, you know, we've all found out through sticker shock that 1.5 million is really not going to go very far when it comes to those kinds of improvements. So that's where we thought would be an ideal place to start, is with the lighting that we need and possible some synthetic turf, or, you know, depending on what Charlie and Sean's input is on what amenities are most needed to begin drawing more of those tournaments.
And that'll be split. What was the figures on?
50-50. Economic Development advised us to apply for no more than 3 million. So it'd be 1.5 million per park, which 1.2 would be federal funds. 300,000 would be at least that 20% match. And then hopefully city and county both would want to obligate more. And as Terry was saying, we can reflect what the plans are for park improvements and hopefully be considered as a much larger match than that. But I would feel comfortable if court would at least obligate that local match of 20% or more. And that can be cash and or in kind. So if we think there's something that some of our folks can do, or we can get some of the utilities to partner with us, you know, we may be able to get a little farther than we think.
And then is that for existing fields only, or is that for new fields?
That would be existing fields at this point. So we could get started on it quickly.
Okay. And I know you had referenced, I went back and looked at some notes. I know you had referenced in the last meeting that KU would possibly help with the softball complex. And Charlie can tell me if I'm wrong or not, but I had that KU stated that they do not, they don't work in regards or don't participate per se with the fields, but they would be open to discussions in regards to maybe doing roadway lighting, access lighting. Charlie, is that right or wrong?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Squire Tracy, that's correct. The larger poles, they do not get involved with, but they did have a smaller pole to help with entrance lighting along roadways and stuff. And as well as they felt like they had a pole that we could lease and pay it off over time for the lighting the volleyball courts.
What about the walking trails?
I would think, yeah, if they're able to supply the power to them, they would definitely have poles to sprinkle along something like that. Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, Charlie. Thank you, Ann.
Terry Bradshaw?
To Scotty's question also, I think that if we have those commitments, or obviously they're not going to commit 100% if we don't have the plan in place, but if we have those initial possible commitments, those can be included in that grant ask on the front end as part of a match as well. The match doesn't necessarily have to come from the fiscal court. It can come from a variety of other places, and that would count toward that.
Will obviously we're not going to get a plan back. I think the date was we're supposed to get this turned back into them, and then we'll get a plan presented to us by the 15th of November. Is that date going to affect the grant application?
Yes, we've been advised that we need to get an application in by November 1st, or we really don't have a chance of getting any funding. They're being awarded now, and they have a finite amount of money in that grant program. So that was the advice of Ms. Parton, who's our EDA representative in the Atlanta region.
And do you think we could ask Hitchcock Group to even give us something that's, I think Shannon showed us some examples of placement of things and programs. I mean, do you think maybe if it's not even formal, that would help your cause?
I think that we have a lot of really good information. I know that we will have great information coming out of our plan. It's just not going to be with us in time for this particular application, but I'm sure for future ones it will. But I sent you guys a link to, I'm sure you'd seen it, but I sent a link anyway to the city's park plan. And it has some really great information and statistics and economic development numbers associated with tournaments that I feel like we can pull enough really good information out to put this application together.
All right. Terry, Robin, did you have your hand up? You good?
So is, Squire said that he supported this.
Yes.
Squire Tracy.
Squire Tracy, is that a yes?
Yeah, I do. Absolutely. I just,
And Judge.
Yep.
You're on.
Yes. All right.
Thank you.
Now, anybody else? Keith Gallagher, are you still on? Do you have anything else to say?
He's not on.
He's not on. Okay. We do appreciate Keith being on. Terry Bradshaw, I'll go to you. Nothing?
Squire Tracy, you act like you're still a little bit hesitant about the grant and you all not being very far down the line and us kind of throwing this money, asking for money when we don't have an overall plan yet. And I think that I get that, but I think the point of our application is us getting it in and getting it in early in a timely manner so they don't run out of money before we even get our ask in. Doesn't really commit us to, it obviously commits us to putting lights on a softball field, but it doesn't commit us to the minutia that we will learn from the plan. If you think there's a possibility that this plan will come out and say, forget it, we don't need lights on the softball field, then I could see some concern. But beyond that, I don't think our grant application is going to commit us to the kind of minutia that you're concerned about by us not having a full-fledged plan yet. Does that make sense?
No, it does. And I'm just sitting here thinking, I hope not having it, having it in our hands, I think would have been so much nicer.
Sure.
It's been identified, the softball complex, lights, new, updated bathroom facilities. You name it, it's been touched on through this process. So.
Sure. And we do have what you have so far. We have this draft and we'll present that as part of the, of the ask.
Thank you.
Robin? Thanks, Terry.
I was just going to add that one of the things we did talk about with the regional representative last week was criteria was, showing the ability to attract regional and national tournaments. So Ann had shared with us that Charlie had put together some information on tournaments that either came or wanted to come. And of course, I've got some information and I think the city has some, but Charlie, if you could provide that, that's going to be a very, very critical part of the application. Who are these tournaments? Where are they coming from? And that sort of thing. She was very clear that we needed to show that kind of draw.
Okay, yeah, we'll be sure to get that information out. I've actually been working with Sean at the city. They've been coordinating a lot of those tournaments. So they're in the process of putting that information together. So I'll be sure to send out I'll reconnect with them today and say, hey, we've got to have some info.
Charlie, the last big tournament is, you're aware of this. Those tournaments are being held by Brandon Moravicek, a lot of them. He's putting them together for a travel team. So I think from what I understand, the last conversation I had with him about a month ago, he put all that together to raise money for a travel team and just paid the city for the parks, for the fields. So I'm not sure how much recruitment per se the city has done and or been involved in some of these tournaments, if any. So I would think reaching out to Brandon may help you
Okay, absolutely. I got his number.
Okay, is there anybody else? Annie?
I just wanted to let you know a little bit more about this particular grant program. Most of economic development's grant programs are linked very tightly to job creation. This is one opportunity that they've come out with because of the pandemic, that we'll be able to use really good information from Robin that shows the effect that pandemic has had on our tourism industry in Frankfurt and Franklin County. And the other thing about it is they want you to show how this creates a destination. So we'll be able to highlight those unique features and amenities and recreational activities in Frankfurt and Franklin County in this grant to, and that'll become part of our marketing to sports tourism, is to say, okay, and you can also visit Buffalo Trace and the Sculpture Park and Elkhorn Creek, and really create an identity and that we all know about, but something that folks will hopefully enjoy other things when they come in for sports tournaments or book return visits, and the effect that this will have on our local economy, especially on the tourism industry, our restaurants and hotels, things that have taken a really hard hit the last couple of years. So that's what's unique about this grant program. I don't know if it will continue past this year. I hope maybe that they will consider obligating some more funds for it in next year, so we can keep an eye out for that to make sure we take advantage of every opportunity. But this is very unique for economic development, and I've got my fingers crossed. I'm really hopeful.
All right. Thank you, Robin, Terry, Ann, and Rebecca Hall from the city for finding this out. Andy Seth he's great at letting us know what's out there and hooking us up. So that's great. All right, anybody else have anything? All right, is there a motion to adjourn from the Squires?
So moved.
Tracy, second. All right. All right. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We appreciate the public for watching this. It's been great information about the Lakeview Park feasibility master plan. So that's just the beginning. Well, this information will go back to Hitchcock Group, and the Hitchcock Group will come back with some more information. And I believe the first part of November, somewhere in that range, we will have a plan to present to the public. So with that being said, thanks everybody for watching. We are adjourned from